Welcome to the Undiscovered Gems podcast, hosted by NBA legend and business powerhouse Charles D. Smith, highlighting today's best and brightest business minds.
Hi, all. Welcome to another show of Undiscovered Gems. I'm your host, Charles D. Smith, former NBA player, and today we have on the show Sherri Alexandrovich. Her company is called New Beginnings Wellness Centers, located in Worcester, Massachusetts. Sherri has more experience than I think all of us combined listening on the show today. She's got over 40 years of real-time, real-life experience, and also 2 master's degrees, one in clinical psychology and the other in children and adolescents. We're here to talk about mental health. That is a topic that is running rampant through our country, and Sherri's going to give us a lot of information that we need to know and how this industry is moving today and what direction it's going in. Sherri, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
So Sherri, tell us, how did you get into this industry and all this experience that you have?
So my desire to be in this industry was really just from growing up in an environment where there was not access to services, and also kind of coming from that traumatic background myself. And so I was emancipated youth at 15. And from those experiences moving forward is really the reason that I became interested in helping other people. I hadn't really gone into it with the expectation of starting a behavioral health clinic, and that kind of just morphed into the size that we are today, based on trying to meet the needs of the community. We've been open for 11 years, and this year in 2026.
Well, I don't want to be too presumptuous with our audience, but emancipated at 15, what does that really mean, and why did that happen?
So what that means is the court had deemed that I was mature and responsible enough to have my own apartment. So I was removed from my home, just based on a number of different traumatic experiences and having parents that were mentally unstable and really weren't able to take care of me. And, so with the help of, some people that I was with at the time, my teacher, my therapist, had really helped me to become emancipated and be able to, move out of my parents' house. And back, we're talking 45 years ago, it's a very different time than it is today. And so, went to the judge, was emancipated, meaning that I was then given custody of myself. And so I had my own apartment, my junior and senior year of high school, and was able to work and go to school and, be able to graduate with honors, actually. And then, the goal was to go on and be a pediatrician. Life took a different path for me. I ended up having children. I've raised 4, and I'm currently raising my 5th. I've adopted my grandson, who's 11.
Oh, nice. And how's he doing?
He's fantastic. He is
great.
Fantastic. Big basketball fan. Absolutely loves it.
Nice. Well, Sherri, so, one thing that has been talked about that's a big issue today is the fact that there are so many people today that are in need of mental health care, from just the smallest services of young adolescents just frustrated with life and not knowing who to turn to and what to do, to people that have been diagnosed with mental health in other areas of life. Where did all of this come from? Is it new? Has it always been here? Where did this epidemic come from?
So I think it's always been here, and it's certainly gotten progressively worse, especially since COVID. I would say that we have seen our numbers and our wait list grow, incredibly high since 2020. I think that now that we're post-COVID, we have so many things that have happened. The isolation, people lost jobs. Working remote, not being able to have access to daycare, childcare. I think educationally, there was a large chunk that was missing that people weren't able to get being in person. First, second, third year of colleges were done via Zoom. The same thing for high school students. I think the biggest piece of that was socialization and connectivity. And that's where we're seeing this epidemic today, is with the isolation piece of it, because people weren't out socializing, and they lost a large chunk of what that was, to be able to go out and be able to talk with other people and connect with other people. And I think trust other people as well. I think a large piece of it, and it's not specific to mental health, but I think globally, is that there were so many people that were scammed out of money, that the trust issue has become huge now in 2025, where we're not trusting that other people's causes or other people's intentions are necessarily genuine, because we've had, a lot of us have had such negative experiences over the 4 years that we were really in this epidemic, that is COVID. And so I think as we're coming out of it, and the world is kind of trying to get back to what is the norm for today, people are really struggling with not having that fundamental communication, that ability to be able to go out and interact with other people, in socialization piece of it, trusting other people's, honesty and genuineness, I think is really difficult as well right now.
And I think also social media brings awareness to this, because if you wanted to go on and search mental health, you have more than enough scenarios and situations and people in life that are just struggling, just trying to make it day to day, living check to check. There's so much frustration out there that people are not handling it that well, and they're just trying to toe the line just to keep it together. But let's talk about one aspect of this. With this industry being somewhat an epidemic form, where are all the professionals that are able to service the industry, and what's happening to the access of these professionals?
One of the things that we're coming across at New Beginnings itself is that it's really challenging to get really good trained clinicians that are coming out of college that want to come into this field. I think that because a lot of people, including providers and therapists, are also struggling with their own mental health scenarios. And it's really hard if we don't have support for ourselves. How can we then support other people? And a large part of what we do at New Beginnings is we put so much focus on that work-home life balance, and the importance of being able to, for ourselves, even be able to get services and get into therapy, but also as an agency to support the mental health providers for additional funding, being able to help them with their tuition reimbursement at the end of the year, to be able to help with additional trainings, with licensure, being able to have access to 401k, retirement options, in health insurance. Those are all things that industry-wide aren't typical things that fee-for-service or contracted providers have access to. And I think that that's a large barrier, because if we're working 40, 50 hours a week, and if our agency that we work for doesn't offer the same types of benefits that you would get if you worked in a corporate office, or if you worked somewhere else, what do you do? I mean, how do you survive?
Right.
It makes it really challenging.
Can you take us through that? You just mentioned the agencies, and take us through the sort of the economic process from client to service provider to agency to government funding. Take us through that, and then after you take us through it, kind of tell us where the chokeholds and the problems are within all of that.
Okay. So when you graduate with your master's degree, you have to, within the master's degree in itself, first of all, we'll start with that. You have to do what's called a practicum and an internship, which means that you have to go to an agency and volunteer your time, because they're not paid practicums or internship. There is its first barrier. So you have to give 10 to 20 hours a week of your time in order to acclimate and have this as your learning tool in order to graduate with your master's degree.
Can I interject right there for a second? How long do you have to spend at that 10 to 20 hours a week? How long is that?
So every college is different. It's typically a number of hours versus a longevity
Okay.
time piece of it. So your practicum, there's 100 hours, and then your second one, there's 300 hours, and then you have a 600-hour internship, which is face-to-face. So the first challenge that you have to overcome is being able to carve that time out of your day while you're going to school full-time, while you're working full-time. So that makes it really difficult in itself.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Thank you for explaining that. That sheds a lot of light on it. Yeah, that's an issue. Please continue.
Right. And so the reason that we can't do, well, for New Beginnings, and I think that I speak for a lot of the other agencies too. So in Massachusetts, what the insurance companies reimburse for our interns to see our clients is so low that as an agency, we can't pay our interns to be able to do this work because the reimbursement rate is so low. By the time I'm done paying my supervisors, the trainings that are involved, I mean, we do at New Beginnings itself, and I can only really just speak to my agency and how we're constructed right now, is we give so much time and attention to our interns that there's a lot of resources that are dedicated, and that can be really challenging and taxing on a smaller agency. Now, there's only 48 of us at my particular clinic, which may sound big, but it's really small, considered what some of the other agencies are like. So we only take on so many interns because of the amount of time that's invested in training. I mean, your internship and your practicum is, in my opinion, the most important step that you're ever going to take in order to become a clinician, because those are your foundation skills. You're going to learn things that you don't learn in a textbook. And the only way to do that is to be able to work for an agency that's going to make sure that they're giving you every resource imaginable to be able to ensure that you're prepared for that next step. Because what we're doing is we have people's lives in our hands, and that's an important job. And so, I started an internship program about 6 or 7 years ago because I found that it was getting really frustrating when I'm hiring people that they didn't have that fundamental skill. They didn't get that training. And that makes it really difficult because when you graduate, essentially with or without the practicum and internship, you can get hired to become a clinician. There's a lot more of that what should be involved, because there should be more training, there should be more supervisions. So I think that's its first barrier. And then once you finish and then you graduate, now you need to make sure that you're setting yourself up into an agency that isn't going to flood you with more clients than you can handle. And that becomes challenging because if you are a fee-for-service clinician, which the majority of the clinicians are, you need to be able to make enough money to pay your bills. So there's that balance that makes it really difficult to not get burned out. It's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And if we can't meet our most basic fundamental needs, it's very difficult for us to be the best versions of ourselves. And so it's so important that if I could give anybody any advice on going into this field, is make sure that you find an agency that is about quality, not quantity, and is going to be able to sit with you and give you the resources and help that you need to be able to work through all of these questions in order to be the best provider that our clients deserve. So you can see where it just continues to kind of escalate. And then you graduate, and there's the stipulations of licensure and the hours that you need to put in.
Right.
And so there's so much, and I don't think that I did hear something somewhere. People were considering what that looks like in terms of the education. I would be so disheartened to learn that they, lower the requirements for that, because I feel as though the education that's required is absolutely where it should be. It's finding the agencies that are going to put the time in to the interns and to the providers, and have it be about the end goal, which is the clients. And sometimes that's not always what the case is. And sometimes the agencies become more about the quantity of people and about the money versus having it be about the quality of the providers that we're producing in order to give the best care that the clients deserve. And that's a hard balance to have.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. What I'm hearing is on every chain, at each link in the chain, there could be a sense of burnout every step of the way. The volunteering, even the agencies. You can start your agency and you can have, the most pure intentions to help people, but if you're not bringing dollars in the door,
right,
those pure intentions start to get blurred lines, and as you get older in the industry, you just want to make money because you're getting out soon.
right.
So that's tough. And then, the fact that, a lot of people are one decision away from throwing it all away. It could be life and death. It could just be that one decision they're going to spiral downward. And you're right. These agencies and these professionals have a lot of people's lives in their hands, and these people need the special care when they come to you. So it's on one hand, the industry is very challenging and difficult based on its services, and on the other hand, you have to give agencies like yours and others their flowers, their props, and everything else, because you're doing an incredible service of people that are in so much need that you can't service them all.
Right.
Yeah, so that's the challenge, and I thank you for explaining that, because at least I'm clear, and I'm sure a lot of people listening are clear are what the challenges are in the industry. So now we've talked about the problems. Let's talk a little bit about the solutions. What do you think the answers are? How do we address this industry better? How do we get more professionals into it? How do we deal with the agencies? Let me hear your take on that.
So my opinion on this would be that, aside from finding an agency that's going to be very supportive, whenever I interview any intern or anybody that's applying for a position at New Beginnings, I always encourage them to interview with more than one agency prior to making a decision as to whether or not they want to come, commit to a specific clinic. And I always explain, because I get very animated. I'm extremely passionate about New Beginnings. I'm extremely passionate about what I do. For me, this is not a job. This is just, I go on my soapbox and I get so excited, and I love helping people. It's just what I was just put on this earth to do. And so when I'm interviewing, I'll say, I know that I get super passionate, and I know that, I talk about New Beginnings because this is my baby, and I love all of my staff. We are a family. But it's important that everybody go and interview with a bunch of different places to find the right niche, because where you start off is going to either be a positive or a negative experience. And we want it to be a positive experience. So first and foremost is do your homework. Make sure that you're going to attach yourself to an agency that is going to support you, going to give you the supervision that you need, and not just kind of throw you to the wolves, so to speak.
Sure.
Another part of it too is find an agency that is really committed to the quality of the service that they're giving. For New Beginnings, we've been open 11 years, and through trial and error and a lot of different ways of looking at things, I've been able to create a structure. And I'm not saying that we're perfect, because we're certainly not, but I've created a structure that my fee-for-service clinicians can make top dollar. So it's what, fee for service, you're not salaried, you work the hours that you want, you have that flexibility, you're getting the money that you need to pay your bills. But in addition to that, you're also getting your sick time, you're getting your vacation time, you get a 401k company match. I pay 50% of your health insurance, whether it's an individual plan or whether it's a family plan. I do a profit share. I do tuition reimbursement every year. I reimburse for my providers' licenses. Every year we choose a training opportunity that we go to. Last year we did EMDR, which is it's a really intensive type of therapy that's focused on eye movement versus talk therapy. And that training in itself is $3,000 a person. I sent 5 people last year. I sent 5 people this year. So just attach yourself to an agency that's committed to making sure that you as a person, as an employee, is respected, and you can come back and get what you need.
Sure.
like you had said, we're getting older. And if we don't have a 401k, we don't have a retirement plan,
Right.
if we're sick and we can't take a day off because we don't have the sick time. I mean, the mortgage companies, it's like anything, right? You can't just call the mortgage company and say, well, I had a bad week, I can't make my payment this week. There needs to
Right.
be,
Right.
you know, a way to ensure that your needs as a provider are being met. And that comes from making sure that you're working for an agency that's going to support that. They're going to ensure that you can be as successful as you can be in order to meet the needs of the community. And that's something that you don't find very often. And one of the things that I've come across, now we're a for-profit, not a nonprofit, so there isn't a board. And I do believe that my business experience that I've had prior to opening New Beginnings, coupled with the behavioral health experience, puts New Beginnings in a unique position where we can make sure that our bottom line dollar is being met, and we can make sure that the provider's needs are being met.
Sure.
And I think that that's a balance that's missing in some of the agencies, because it's, if you're ran just by a clinician, you don't really understand the business side of it. If you're ran by the business side of it, you don't really understand the provider piece of it. And I walk that line between both sides of it all the time in my staff meetings to make sure that
Right.
administratively they're supporting my providers, and my providers know that we're here to help them achieve whatever obstacle that they're coming up across, that we're going to help them to get over that.
Right. You know, I don't know whether you've assessed this question I'm about to ask you, but it sounds like you may have impacted the industry by putting a lot of people out there to start their own business, to go to other agencies and help build them up. Your place can also be, I'm not saying it's a revolving door, but your place can be a training ground for a lot of people to go out there and do good work and train others. Have you assessed that over the years? How many people are out there that came from your agency?
Hundreds.
Right.
So we're at 48 now. We've been open 11 years. I would say, oh gosh, I don't have an exact number. And thankfully so, I don't have a high turnover rate. I had people celebrating my 10-year anniversary with their 10-year anniversary. A lot of my staff that are still at New Beginnings, I supervised before I even opened New Beginnings when I was a supervisor at other agencies, and they've come with me. So I would say there's at least 6 people that have been with me for 10 years, 15-ish that have been with me well over 7 years. I mean, that's a long time for providers to be in one place. We don't have a high turnover rate because I offer all these opportunities for growth.
Sure.
And so the trajectory, you graduate, you become your clinician, you do your 2 years and you get licensed. And then, a lot of people will go on and either start their own agency or start a group practice or a private practice. So, and I had assessed that that's where I was losing some people. And so I opened a group clinic about 4 years ago, New Beginnings Group Practice. And I don't hire for it. It's only for my internal people who want to go over to the group practice. And it's just a different sector. It's a different type of health insurance.
Sure.
New Beginnings is Mass Health, which is a state-funded insurance, and that's by design. That's the population that's super important to me. That's who we service. So when you graduate and you go on to private practice, it's more of the commercial sector. It's just a different clientele that you're working with, a different set of requirements, different insurance requirements, things like that. So I created this group practice so that my clinicians have a place to grow. Every one of my supervisors have been with me either since their bachelor's when they were a mentor, or since they were a practicum student as their master's, and they have worked their way through and become licensed, had a few years under their belt, and are now my supervisors. So I love the fact that we have that longevity, and we all have been taught in the same way.
Right. Well, yeah, and you see that understanding the business of the industry and what you do, that transcends. Lawyers are in the same position, doctors are in the same position, where at some point you get the business experience, or you hire the people to expand your business. My question is, do you mentor a lot of the people on the business side? Because you've had so much experience, you can make it look easy. And people can think that they can do what you do until you start peeling that onion back and they're like, how does she do this?
It's a lot.
Right.
It's a lot.
Right. So do you mentor people on the business side?
I do not. I have 3 times in the time that we've been open, and those are people that have come to me and said, "Oh, I'm interested in starting. Do you know some? Could you talk to somebody that I know?" And I always am willing to sit down and have that conversation. Because I run the clinic and I also supervise, I also am the only person who does the interviews, and I also have a caseload. So I don't have a whole lot of free time to be able to mentor other people who are starting a behavioral health clinic. I definitely have the philosophy that if I have that knowledge, I'm more than happy to sit down and give it to you, because there is such a need in the community. And I don't believe that, I'm going to keep all the secrets to success to myself. I think that's just a silly philosophy.
Sure. Right.
I've helped other people start their clinics. I've given them my policy and procedure manual, which has taken me years to perfect.
That's awesome.
Why reinvent the wheel? Just go in, make sure you read the policies, make sure you adhere to them, make sure that they're applicable to your specific, agency, and change the names, obviously. But I mean, I've done that for 2 people that I know right now that are really successful and have more than one agency that's out there. I think that that's important, because why start from scratch when somebody else has already done all the trial and error? And we've had growing pains. I mean, I certainly did not walk into New Beginnings with an understanding of what I was doing. I Googled it. I Googled what my business plan looked like. I attached myself to people that I knew had good hearts and were good human beings, and I knew were going to stand behind New Beginnings and support what my philosophies are and what my ethics are. I've had somebody recently ask me if I would help somebody start a substance abuse program. I'm more than happy to help anybody that has questions, as long as you're a good human.
Understood. Well, we've talked about a lot of different things, Sherri. The show is slowly coming to a close, but I'd like you to really, shed some light on this conversation. What are a couple of things you want the audience to leave with?
I would say that this is the most rewarding work you are ever going to do. And even though it is extremely challenging and there is a high burnout rate and it might feel a little bit overwhelming, if you can find an agency that's really going to support you, you can't find a job that's going to give you a greater satisfaction. It just is, it's something, helping other people is something that is just such an amazing experience to have. And so I would say that for professionals, don't get discouraged. There are agencies out there that care. There are people out there that you can ask for support. And there are still really good people out there that are willing to answer questions and help to guide you. And I think as a person who's seeking services, similar advice: don't give up. There are people out there who care, and there are few problems that we can't help you work through. So I think the hope.
Yes, one last question, and I shouldn't, because we might go over, but I got to ask. Do most of the people come into this industry, is it their passion that's driving them, I would think, versus making money?
3,000%.
Got it. Thank you.
That's an easy answer for you.
Yeah. Thank you. Sherri, you've been great as always. Phenomenal information. You telling the kind of the value chain of what's happening in the industry has been very powerful to a lot of people hearing it, because it sheds light on what needs to happen and what's going on in our industry. So thank you for coming on, Sherri Alexandrovich. You're the best, and what a company you have. Continued success to you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It was so nice to talk with you.
Thank you so much.
We hope you enjoy this episode of Undiscovered Gems with our host, Charles D. Smith, highlighting today's best and brightest business minds. Brought to you by Pods Entertainment Group.
Hi, this is Terry Crews. Actor, former football player, game show host, father of 5, and all-around big dude. I'm also an expert on drama. I know all kinds of drama. There's the good kind that comes with having a house full of kids. There's the bad kind like season-ending injuries. There's the necessary kind like having an agent in Hollywood. And there's silly drama like the drama around my percolating pectorals. And then there's the drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your high school diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org.
Or text diploma to 97779. Message and data rates may apply. Reply STOP to opt out. That's diploma to 97779. And leave the drama to actors like me.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.